this tried exercise, once again, we're looking at simplifying radicals that have higher indexes than just a square root. Cube roots, fourth roots, fifth roots. They may not be recognizable right off the bat. There's some of them that should be. There are others that we might have to factor to figure out if we don't remember that it's a perfect cube, perfect fourth root, perfect fifth root, so on and so forth. So with part A, we're asked to find the cube root of -27. Now, unlike even indexes, particularly what we're working with now, square roots and fourth roots, with odd indexes, cube roots, fifth roots, so on and so forth, it's perfectly acceptable to have a negative number underneath the radical. It's perfectly fine to have a negative sign in front of that real number. The reason being is because there are numbers that when you multiply them by themselves 3 times or 5 times, an odd number of times, that it's going to be a negative number. So what we need to recognize with the cube root of -27, we want to know what number times itself 3 times. The product of itself 3 times is 27, or in this case -27. So what we need to recognize is that -27 equals -3 cubed. That equals -27. In other words, the cube root of -27 equals the cube root of -3 cubed. The cubed root of a value being cubed is that value. So it's going to be cube root of -3 cubed equals -3. Now with part B, we have an even index, and there's this negative value here. There is no number multiplied by itself an even number of times that is going to equal a negative number, because a positive times a positive is a positive, and a negative times a negative is a positive as well. So this is just like the square root, even index, negative value under the radical. This is not a real number. And again, that's because even index and a negative value underneath the radical. That's not possible in the real number system. Part C, again, we have an odd index. We're taking the fifth root, so we can have a negative sign, a negative value under the radical. We need to recognize what number multiplied by itself 5 times is going to be 32, -32. So essentially what we need to recognize is -2 to the 5th power. That equals -32. 2 times, or sorry, I said -32 and wrote -36, so -32. So 2 times 2 is 2, or 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So -2 multiplied by itself 5 times is going to be -32. So this equals the 5th root of -2 to the 5th power. The 5th root of something being taken to the 5th power is that something. So the 5th root of -2 to the 5th. And again, the whole thing needs to be taken to the power, not just the number. The negative needs to be taken to the 5th power as well in order for this to remain true. So the 5th root of -2 to the 5th is simply -2.